Hello lovely people, it's Jo here and I'm looking forward to being with you this week in another set of Take Fives. I think I ought to rename this Novel Views of the Mengle Household because I'm running out of places to film that you haven't seen in our house. This is our lounge, the corner of our lounge in fact. Welcome to it. Hopefully it will get more interesting as the week goes on. So what we're going to be covering this week is the theme, really, because we're going to be travelling through lots of different sections of the Bible, little short pieces, short passages, just exploring the theme of identity and who Scripture says we are, and aspects of who we are as Christians. And so, without further ado, today we are going to be looking at a passage from Ephesians 2, verse 19, which is about being a saint or being holy. But before I start, actually, as soon as I read this scripture, it made me think about what it was like growing up, not being in the in crowd. I don't know if you had this, but certainly there was a beautiful set for me as a teenage girl. There was a definite beautiful set, the in crowd. I wasn't in it. I was most definitely not in the in crowd. But I have distinct memories of looking in on that as an outsider, looking and imagining it was probably lovely to be on the inside of that crowd. It wasn't so great looking in from the outside. But I know what it's like, and I expect we all do, to feel on the outside of the joke, to be on the outside of the group or the clique. So hold that in mind as we read today's scripture. So it says, "So now you Gentiles are no longer strangers and foreigners. You are citizens along with all of God's holy people. You are members of God's family." And this is actually Paul talking to the Gentiles. They were people like us who weren't Jews. So before Jesus, outsiders, Gentiles, had literally no hope of becoming Jewish insiders. It was impossible. We would just have not have been born into the right families. You just had no hope. And how the Jews became insiders or became holy was to commit, to do sacrifices, to commit themselves to certain rituals, circumcision. They jumped through all the right hoops, and then they were in with a hope of becoming ceremonially clean or holy for a short amount of time. And then they'd have to go through that process again. But we as Gentiles, we didn't even have a chance of that because we were too unclean. We were just complete outsiders. We had no hope. And yet, with Jesus, that's what this scripture says, with Jesus, we're no longer strangers and foreigners. We're part of the family. We're citizens. That means we're legally recognised as part of God's holy people. That's what the Jews were. That's what they were born into, as this holy people, this set-apart nation. And yet we get to be a part of that. We get to be members of the family that are set apart, that are clean, that are saints, and through no work of our own. It's entirely undeserved, which is amazing, that we get to be legit insiders because of what Jesus has done. We get to be holy without having to jump through all the hoops and do all the ceremonial rituals and try and follow the rules. What Jesus has done once and for all helps us to be insiders, part of God's in family. And I just was thinking about that in church today, and thinking how sometimes maybe church, we run the risk of it feeling like an exclusive club. Like, are there people who ever come into our church and feel like they're looking in from the outside, that experience of seeing the in crowd and feeling on the outside of it? And I never want that to be anyone's experience of church or of encountering Christians. There is no exclusivity to this in crowd. We all have the right, the ability to accept what Jesus has done for us. And nobody has to be left on the outside looking in. And I don't know about you, but I really want to take people with me to heaven. That's the only thing I get to take with me, and I want a whole bunch of friends and family to take with me to heaven. So we get to be saints. We get to be holy through nothing we have done. But we're no longer foreigners or outsiders. And we don't want anybody else to be a foreigner or an outsider either. We're going to take them with us. Take that with you into your day. See who you can go and help get on the inside. Bye bye. See you tomorrow.